The November 28th, 2016 meeting of the Recreation Education Committee will finally now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer? Present. Mr. Felder? Present. Mr. Flagler-Mitchell? Present. Mr. Marionetti? Present. Chairman Terp?
Present. Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
There is not. That's great. Is there anyone present who is not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? No. The next item of the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the August 22nd, 2016 minutes of the joint meeting of the Recreation, Education, and Ways and Means Committee before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes of the end of the day. Next, I would like to introduce Kate Bennett. She is the Executive Director of the Rochester Museum and Science Center, who's here to give us a presentation on the Rochester Museum and Science Center. Hi, Kate.
Hi, thank you very much. I have some handouts. I want you each to take one, and we'll take one of each, because there's two things. Thank you. I want you all to meet, first of all, Dan Minnelli, our Chief Science Officer at the Rochester Museum and Science Center. If you haven't met him yet, you need to, because not only is he a cool guy, he's doing wonderful things at the Museum and Science Center. First of all, we want to say thank you very much for the support that Monroe County gives to the museum. It is magnificent support, and it allows us to do so much. We get to impact the economic development of the region. We work on education, and we work on making sure the quality of life is terrific in the region as well. Most of all, we care for 1.2 million objects on behalf of the community with the funds that you give to us. And that's a role that Monroe County took on in 1969. So thank you, Monroe County, because of that, we get to care for things and put them on display. So I'm going to have Dan speak for a moment. As I said, he's our Chief Science Officer, so he's in charge of all of the programming that goes on in the museum. Dan.
Good evening. I admire your stamina tonight. As Chief Science Officer, I feel very lucky to have this role. I'm a former teacher for 25 years in New York City, was recruited last year to join the Rochester Museum and Science Center. I lead 8 teams of educators and programmers and designers and developers, and we take our work in STEM enrichment very seriously: science, technology, engineering, and math. Right now, we're focusing on engaging our 365,000 visitors each year through 200 hands-on exhibitions, many of which we fabricate ourselves. We're really interested in the out-of-school time space, looking at learners who do most of the learning outside of the classroom. Each year, we reach 10,000 low-income families by offering them free admission, and we focus on those with learning challenges and disabilities as well. In our summer programs, we focus on learning regression. Very often, students lose momentum during the summer. So this summer, we were very proud to have over 80 different science, technology, engineering, and math curricula that reached over 2,500 students. And we also had 80 near peers who are young teenagers who come back to us as volunteers. And that's an important marker for our work as success. And the kids who volunteer with us are actually gaining skills in coaching and peer advisory that they can carry forward into school success. So I'm going to turn the mic back to Kate, who's going to talk to you briefly about our work as an education economic driver.
So we know that more than 10% of the audience that we serve comes from outside of Monroe County. And that number is growing every year. It is particularly true during the summer when people are coming into town. And so they're buying gas at gas stations, they're eating lunch in establishments, and it's really helping Monroe County in so many different ways. We know that the generated economic impact is more than $10 million based on the studies of arts and economic prosperity that were done in Syracuse in 2012. We employ 60 people to do the work we do, plus 150 part-time people. the workforce piece that we do is very important to us, and we started getting very eager and urgent about this about 5 years ago, where we started adding to every exhibition ideas about jobs in different areas. So when we do an energy exhibit, we introduce students to what are the jobs in energy. We've just done that with our photonics and optics exhibit. And it's a fabulous way for people to understand that there are opportunities in this community, and some of them are available through post-secondary work, either at a certificate program at MCC, but not big college expense. And so that is terrific, and we give that opportunity for enthusiasm and building, that interest in learning in people. So all the time we're working on increasing awareness about what the STEM opportunities are in this community. The anti-poverty initiative is important to us. We keep our eye on it. And when our partners ask us to do things, we're happy to stand up and do what we can in order to support them in getting across those ideas. So we're a place where people feel comfortable coming in. And so we're an agent of inclusion. And we give people a sense of place about this community and belonging to the community. And I've already talked about the workforce. I'm now going to turn over to Dan again so he can talk a little bit about our service learning.
One big opportunity for museums, and we really take it seriously, is to offer, we have 14 different forms of volunteerism and service learning for learners of really all ages. We see this as a chance for them to come and build non-cognitives or social skills. They work as greeters, they help us prototype and design exhibits. We're really proud of their work, and we're especially proud when they carry it forward into other careers. We want this community to see the power and promise of STEM, what it means to stay with STEM and to find your way into a purposeful, productive life. When Kate talks about our work with workforce development, largely we're focusing now on creating stories and revealing role models in the community who look and act like these families that have children in the school systems. We're creating new media. We're featuring people who have found their way into productive work lives by staying with science and technology, engineering, and math. Our collections are a large part of this. We have 1.2 million objects, more if you count things like arrowheads and tiny rocks. And what we do is we use them to build story spaces. Everyone in the community is a teacher of reading and writing, and we really love to use the museum's collections to help learners build a structured narrative to communicate to each other scientific ideas, very often based on the legacy of this community. The technologically and the patents and inventions that come from Rochester give young learners a sense of place that we're really proud of, and we have the tools to engage them in a really exciting way. I'll close by just mentioning a quick nod to our exhibit. We spent the past year and a half developing elements of the extreme: earth, fire, air, and water. It's loaded with new technologies, augmented reality, lots of objects, fire trucks from the Kodak factories, and lots of manipulative models, and an airplane suspended from the ceiling that we borrowed from our partners at the Glenn Curtis Museum. This is an exhibit that's not like anything we've seen in this area, and we're very proud of it, and I want to personally invite you to come and see it and bring your families. My office is right on the museum's mezzanine, and I get a great deal of intelligence from the kids and teachers. I get a little moon face when I see the field trips coming through. It reminds me of my own teaching so long ago. I'll close simply by saying thank you, and how lucky I am to find my way to this community and a mentor like this person right beside me here. So thank you.
I just realized that I didn't give our speaker a copy of our presentation. That wasn't a good idea. So does anybody have an extra copy out there? So I'll have Dan, if you'd go get that. In the meantime, I want to take you to the last 2 pages of what I handed out, because there are very cool things happening at East Avenue right now. The first picture of the 4 pictures of our, thank you, Dan, show the museum and the planetarium from East Avenue and show our Gateway building. And what's so special about that gateway is that we're calling it the Gateway to Optics and Photonics. And it's going to signal to people that it is very, very cool to learn about optics and photonics. And everyone will know about that, whether you're on East Avenue or whether you visit us from the other side. But we're signaling to parents and to children and to people who are looking for ways to find new pathways into careers because they're looking for a second opportunity in life. We hope they'll come back and enjoy us. So our donors are very excited about this Gateway building. They've given us planning money, and we are hopeful that with everyone's support, we will be breaking ground in another year. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time and your patience. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I would like to bring up somebody who needs no introduction if you've been here for the past 6 hours, Mr. Robert Franklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our 2017 budget presentation as it pertains to the Rec and Ed Committee. Once again, briefly, to provide some broader context of the county budget, Monroe County's 2017 budget is looking at a slight amount of increased overall spending, less than 1%, actually less than 0.09%. It comes out to 0.86. It's about a $10 million change from 2016 to 17. In terms of this particular slide and how it's formatted, the line item for debt service, I will point out, is actually a combined debt service and cash capital. Cash capital had been included in prior year's budgets. It would have been recorded either as a mandated or non-mandated service, depending on what department or division was sponsoring the cash capital contribution. However, with the dissolution of several local development corporations, we have the opportunity to put forward a strategic planning around cash capital contributions for future equipment replacement and refresh. Capital items that otherwise would have been handled by either Upstate Telecommunications or Monroe Security and Safety Systems. The overall spending for 2017 does comply with New York State's tax cap and Monroe County's local law, the Taxpayer Protection Act. Those areas pertaining to the Rec and Ed Committee include our County Parks Department, Monroe Community College contribution, our support of the Monroe County and Rochester library systems, and other educational support, which would include the Soil and Water Conservation District and Cornell Cooperative Extension. Looking at our Department of Parks, not a lot of excitement financially, perhaps programmatically, but certainly modest increases in personnel and benefit costs, small amount of increase in debt service costs, and interdepartmental charges. Just a couple quick highlights for Department of Parks in 2017. We've heard presentations around the master plan for Seneca Park Zoo. Well, we're going to begin construction of phase 1 of those improvements. Also construction of some of the master plan improvements at Mendon Ponds Park and Powder Mills Park, and then completion of the master plan updates for Highland Park South and Churchville Park. Looking at our support of Monroe Community College, it is pretty close to where it was budgeted in 2016. The major components, of course, include the county's contribution, which is remaining flat at $19,130,000. Our out-of-county support, and just in case, for those of you who may be a little unfamiliar with out-of-county support, there are some Monroe County, I'm sorry, I call them Monroe County kids, young adults who choose to attend a community college in another county. When you do that, you pay out-of-county tuition, unless you come to real property tax services and get a certificate of residency. If you present your FLCC with a certificate of residency showing you're a Monroe County resident, you pay the regular tuition, and then FLCC will send Monroe County the bill for the balance of that out-of-county support. Debt service for MCC also increasing a little bit, primarily due to the progression on the downtown campus. Our support in 2017 for area libraries includes appropriations both for the Monroe County Library System and central services at the Rochester Public Library, offset by revenues from member libraries, state and federal aid, bringing our net county support to just over $7 million. This budget has already been presented to the Board of Trustees and the City of Rochester and is now coming before you. Quick side note on the library system. In prior years, Monroe County's library fund in our accounting system had fund balance. A little bit of that fund balance had been used in prior years to cover annual appropriations. That fund balance has now been depleted, bringing the full amount of net county support in the tax levy. I did mention Cornell Cooperative Extension and the Soil and Water Conservation Districts. The appropriations in our budget for their support is unchanged from 2016. The Cornell Cooperative Extension provides research-based information and education programs. You know, you may know they used to occupy a building in Highland Park South on Highland Avenue. They have moved recently, within the past year or so, over to a building on St. Paul Street near Seneca Park. Soil and Water Conservation District has offices located on Paul Road, 145 Paul Road, in our Fleet area, Fleet Center area. And they provide the public with natural resource conservation planning, technical assistance, and other quality improvement planning. Mr. Chairman, be happy to entertain questions.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. I will now open the floor, as soon as Mr. Franklin gets back to his seat, to any committee members who have questions regarding the recreation education portion of the budget. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and happy holidays to you and,
Merry Christmas.
And the rest of the committee and everybody in the room. On page 104, my question is, how many years have the county support for the Central Library been frozen at $6,770,000?
Mr. Chairman, the particular amount of $6,770,000 probably for a couple of years. It's been in that neighborhood a little longer than that, just not that exact dollar amount.
Okay, and what have been the staffing reduction in that time?
Mr. Chairman, I unfortunately cannot answer that question, not being that intimately involved with library budgeting and its operations.
Okay, and through the chair, what has been the reduction in the open hours or services?
Mr. Chairman, through my understanding with meetings with library personnel, operating hours have declined over the years. I cannot quantify that decline, however.
Okay, can you get that for us through the chair?
Mr. Chairman, we can contact library staff for that information.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Mr. Felder, thank you for joining us.
On page 246, it talks about the number of lodge and shelter reservations being at a high number. Have we reached the point where we don't have enough lodges and maybe need to build more, or is it still manageable? So I know some of the through the chair, I know that some of the properties are pretty popular in terms of it's hard to get a reservation.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, the lodges continue to be very popular, and we have been adding lodges in the last few years. We just opened the Waterfront Lodge at Abraham Lincoln Park this year. We are presently under construction with a new lodge at Webster Park, and we are converting 2 lodges into 1 larger lodge in Powder Mills Park.
Thank you.
Do you have another question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I see that it says the amount of the budgeted golf fees dropped last year. Is that lower than what we expected, or is there an issue, or is our golf courses becoming less popular, or is it an economic thing, or through the chair? Excuse me, that's page 250.
Through the chair, Dave Rinaldo, Deputy Parks Director. The number you see in there for the fee is based on our experience in 2015 of running the courses for the first time in 20 years. In addition, we note that the number of rounds have increased significantly over the last 2 years, which is contrary to the trend nationally.
So, excuse me, so this is an expected drop?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's based on real life experience. The previous budget numbers were estimates on what the revenue would be from, not having run the courses in 20 years. It's based on the actual experience of 2015 and partial 2016.
Thank you.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell?
Through you to the administration, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. On page 624, the salaries in parks operations are going up by 15.2%, but there is no apparent increase in authorized position. Why is that going up?
Mr. Chairman, largely that is attributable to a shift in cost allocation between divisions. Monroe County Parks has park superintendents that spend some of their time on managing the golf course. Golf course, of course, located within the overall county park. That salary for 2017 is now being more appropriately allocated between the 2 divisions.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All right. Next item on the agenda is new business. Madam Clerk.
Referral 16-0352.
Moved by Legislator Alcoffer, seconded by Legislator Marionetti. All those in favor, or is there any discussion on it? Sorry. Mr. Flagler. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. What are the plans going forward for Highland and Durham Park Arboretum?
Arboretum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chairman again.
Through the chair, Mark Quinn, Superintendent of Horticulture. The plans are to continue maintaining a world-class arboretum in both Highland and Durand Eastman Park. We're working on a number of projects throughout the park, making them more user-friendly through labeling and better access to the material, and continued increasing the collection as plants die. We add new plants, so we're maintaining the collection we have and increasing it through time.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? Do you, Frank, do you want to put Mr. Alcoffer, you going to put the microphone?
Are there specific plans for using these increases?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, these grants pay for staff for the care and collection of the Arboreta.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 16-0353.
Moved by legislator Marionetti, second by legislator Alcoffer. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, yes. Legislator Felder.
Just quickly, so this grant is a supplement to what's already being budgeted for the zoo? Through the chair? It's not, I see it says it's going to cover partial salary, so it's just a quick question.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the money in the referral is contemplated in the budget.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 16-0354.
Moved by legislator Alcoffer, seconded by legislator Marionetti. Is there any discussion? Legislator Flagler Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, just got one quick question. How did Monroe County come to receive this gift?
Through the chairman, the folks at the Melanoma Society of Rochester approached us and wanted to do something to give back and remember a family member who had passed because of skin cancer. And they also hold their fundraising walk annually at Webster Park. So they came to us, and we were glad to accept their gift and build their Get Out of the Sun shelter.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Legislator Felder.
What's the to the chair, to the administration? What's the time frame for the completion of this structure?
Through the chairman, we hope to have it built this spring.
Thank you.
Legislator Flagler Mitchell.
Just a follow-up question. Actually, what will the structure be? Through the chair.
Through the chair, it will be similar to a small picnic pavilion. If you've been to the Abe Lincoln Park on Empire Boulevard where we have a playground, there's a couple of smaller shelters. They hold one large or two normal-sized picnic tables. The idea is for casual use, not so that it's rented, but just so if you are playing at the playground and you want to take your kids out of the sun for a little bit to get a drink or have a picnic lunch, you can do so and be in the shade.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? Seeing none, the November 28th, 2016 meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee is scheduled for December 19th, 2016 at 6 p.m.